Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. My name is Theo, and you're listening to Between Two Trains, the train station that brings you great entrepreneurs twice a month. Your hosts are Eric Moss and Van Pappas. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride.
Welcome to another Between Two Trains. I'm Van, your friendly financial planner.
And I'm Eric, your better business banker.
And we are here with Pat and Tracy from FulBro Heating and Air. And I have to tell our listeners, we had a little bit of a screw up, and we had to record this whole thing over again. So I want to thank from the beginning Pat and Tracy for sitting through this for a second time. But let's talk for a second about what FulBro Heating and Air are. Pat, this is a small independent heating and air company that was located in Chambly, correct?
Yes.
And you were in Chambly for 20, 30 years, and you've moved outside of Chambly now to Norcross.
Yes.
So what precipitated that move?
We were leasing the building in Chambly for all those years and had an opportunity to purchase our own building. So that.
What would you say, Pat and Tracy, leading up to the opportunity to buy and move? It's something that a lot of business owners contemplate, especially dealing with rents, dealing with an existing landlord, dealing with other tenants nearby, who you may share a building or cohabitate in some space or capacity. What are some things that you consider that maybe some other listeners and business owners may be thinking about as well?
Well, for us, finding the building that was within our budget and would work for the building, and making sure that other businesses around us was compatible with what we do here. So there was a lot of things to go into.
Is this warehouse space, or is this do you need a lot of warehouse space for your type of business?
Yes, we use a pretty good bit of warehouse. We keeping the some AC units in stock, and the parts for all the AC units, different manufacturers, and in the sheet metal too. And we have our own sheet metal shop here that fabricates sheet metal with. So the warehouse part is the biggest part of our building here.
So I believe we talked about before, you do both residential and commercial. It's about an even mix, right, between residential and commercial. What would you say as far as going into a new resident, a new customer? Do you like the residential side better, the commercial side better? Maybe also which one is more profitable for you?
I like both residential and commercial. I don't have a preference over either one of them. Dollar for dollar, there's more money in the residential market than there is in the commercial market. But the commercial is bigger dollars, but it's less profit in the jobs.
Now, when you go into the commercial, you're not just bringing in the air conditioning unit or the furnace unit. Are you laying the ductwork and all of that for new construction?
Yes. Yeah, the commercial side, we do new construction. So we put everything in, all the ductwork and all the AC units and the fans, and we do a lot of the custom kitchens. So we'll put in all the kitchen exhaust and all that in for them.
So here's a question for you. I've got a rental property, and it's got a basement, a full-length basement that the ceiling is not finished. So you see all the duct work up in the ceiling. It's 10+ foot ceiling, 12-foot ceilings, and you can see all that duct work. How important is that duct work to be all nice and wrapped and insulated? If I start seeing some of that insulation peel off, do I need to be calling you, or is that something I can handle on my own?
Well, I'd recommend you get it taken care of, whether you do it yourself if you're capable and feel comfortable doing it, or if you want us do it. But sealing the ductwork, there's duct seal that needs to be sealed good, and you also need to make sure the insulation's in good shape and sealed airtight.
I mean, I'm losing energy by it not being sealed up tight. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah. It costs more money because if you have that ductwork in different environments, then it can gain or lose capacity in the ductwork.
Gotcha.
We were talking earlier about kind of like a 1, 2, 3 step for, just an average, somebody with average knowledge or no knowledge rather of, AC units. What are some good things to check on a regular basis just to make sure that you're, doing what you can to ensure the life of, the units that you're using?
Well, I mean, changing your filters out regularly on a monthly basis is a good start for somebody and recommend a good 1-inch pleated filter to put in it. Don't buy the cheap filters.
Don't get the cheap. You told me this before. Don't get the cheap, but you're telling me I don't necessarily have to spend $20+ on a filter, right?
Yeah, you don't have to buy the most expensive filter that's on the shelf there, but don't buy the cheapest one. Just buy a good 1-inch pleated filter, and you don't need any of the add-on features that they have in all the.
And how often should I change that?
It should be changed once a month.
Once a month. Man, you're going to hate me as a customer. When I call you up, you're going to be like, man, you've got to change these out more often.
Yeah,
we have a lot of those customers, so you won't be the only one. But I recommend if the filters are kept clean and your equipment's clean, it works more efficient and it'll last longer too because you don't have the dirty coils running the pressures up. So.
Here's a question for you. I mentioned I have rental properties. In my leases, I always have things like changing the filters, the responsibility of the tenant. Should I really not do that? Because, if I leave it up to the tenant, who knows how often they'll change it. And it sounds like what you're telling me is if it's not changed regularly, I could do more harm to the unit itself and end up as the landlord having to change that unit out sooner than full life. Should I be making it a practice as a landlord? Should all landlords make it a practice to go in and change the filters themselves?
I recommend it, or have somebody that you trust comparable to change the filters for you at them. But I don't think that I'd leave it up to the tenants because, like you said, if they don't do it often enough, then you're taking life out of your equipment. All
right. So what you've just told me is I've got to raise the rent on all my units by $10 to $15 a month to pay for a monthly filter.
I recommend it strongly.
Yes. Recommend it strongly. All right. Good news. See, Eric, it's not just about introducing the business owner to the community. It's about learning something. And I'm sure there's plenty of listeners who are landlords that probably never thought of that.
Or maybe listeners that are renters that need to get their landlords to come over and do that.
Yeah, they're saying, hey, why am I spending money on a filter when my landlord should be doing it?
Right. Right.
Is there anything that people should be doing to make their units more efficient?
I recommend having a company come clean and service their equipment and make sure the Freon's correct in all your units. To make sure they're working and coils are clean, to make sure they're working as efficient as they can.
Now, aren't the rules around Freon different these days? They've changed over the years, right? It's not the same as like back in the 70s and 80s when we were all, getting screwed up as kids, because the Freon was leaking in the house. Where are the current rules with Freon? Only certain people can get it. There's certain quality.
Yeah, you have to have a license to purchase Freon. You have to have a license to put Freon in units.
So I can't just go down to the local heating and air retailer, distributor, and buy Freon. They're going to say, sorry, you don't have a license.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
You cannot buy it. You have to have a
Gotcha.
license to buy it. They shouldn't sell it to you anyway.
They're going to tell you to pack sand, man.
There's really no way around the free. I mean, that's basically the technology we have today, right? Is using Freon. There's nothing that's no new advancements that they're coming up with on a different way to cool the house, is there?
Well, before you answer, Pat, I have found that if you just leave the freezer door open for a while, that can have a tremendous impact.
That helps a lot, yeah.
Tremendous impact.
As long as you don't care about freezer burn on all your food.
Open the freezer door for once in a while, stick your head in there and cool off a little bit.
But seriously, there's no technology that you'd say, hey, in the next 20 years, this is what you're going to see.
They're going to keep changing the Freon to try to get them where they're not a little bit more environmental friendly. But as far as it going away, no, there's going to be some form of Freon for heating, for air conditioning anyway.
Gotcha. Well, what about these apartments that have like the little window units? Are they any different than a full? I've never had one of those window units in my entire life, so I don't know how they work. Or I know I see them sticking out of someone's bedroom window.
It's the same technology, just a smaller version. Does a small, just does.
It's using Freon too. Those units are using Freon too.
Yeah, they still use Freon.
Gotcha.
Well, we talked in the last episode a little bit about with the whole coronavirus, maybe some type of spray apparatus or something like that to go through the air ducts. And I know a lot of people have been doing kind of their own thing based on their own beliefs. I would hate to think people are kind of pouring bleach or spraying Lysol, in their outside units, and it's going to carry through. But is there anything that y'all are doing or the industry's doing for air-based treatment for infectious diseases?
I mean, there's GPSs, global plasma units that they sell now that they're recommending to put in. It helps clean the air up, and there's also UV lights to help with that same situation. And there's higher efficiency air cleaners out. So
here's
some products out now.
This might be completely off base, and you may say I have no knowledge on it at all, but it just went through my head. Radon. Houses in Georgia, they tell me, come up through the ground with radon. Are you familiar at all with radon, and if that's a real thing?
I'm not really that familiar with radon. I see some houses have radon pumps in them to help pump. They've got pumps that pump air out from underneath the house and pump it outside, but I'm not that familiar with it.
You don't know enough about it. All right.
We don't mess with any
Eric,
of that.
we need to get a radon specialist on one of these episodes.
Okay. Well, yeah, I don't know where you'd go to.
I don't either.
Specialist, But
that's the problem with my brain. I just think of things like this.
But if you flip off my AC here in a couple days and sit me in the attic, get me sweating, I may be able to come up with some good ideas.
There you go. Your own little sweat lodge.
Pat, Tracy, I know here in July, it's kind of a busy time. What percentage of your business is essentially done during the summer compared to the winter months?
Probably 70% of my work is in the summertime.
So there is no summer break.
No, you don't take off during summertime in the heat and air industry.
That's just the wrong time to do it. Well, speaking about break and kind of vacations, we discussed earlier, you've got some close family affiliates, some children involved in the business. What's it like working with them?
We have a good relationship. My son works here and my daughter works here, and my son all work here. And when they show up for work, they show up for work. They don't play the that my dad owns the company card too much, or at least not that I'm aware of anyway. But they show up and go to work and do their job. Probably some of my best workers.
How many employees do we have outside of the kids?
20.
Wow. Okay. So this is not just a little mom and pop. This is a pretty decent sized small business. I'm assuming since the kids work there, that's sort of the long term when you decide, hey, I want to hang it up, the kids will take over.
Yes, that's our plan, is to leave it with them and keep the company going. So.
Well, how would you? I'm just curious. How would you structure that? Would you basically still own it, and they would just pay you, or would you just say, "Here are the keys. Enjoy the gift I just gave you"?
Yeah.
Here's the keys.
Here's the keys. Here's the keys.
Lock up when you're done.
Well, that's interesting because if I remember right, you said that you bought this business from the original founders. What were their names again?
The original founders of the company was Tom Fuller and Robert Broth. And then shortly after the company started, Robert Broth sold out to a man named Rob Neely.
And did you work for them before you bought it, or did you just come in and buy the business from them?
I worked for them. I started here in 1987, and I bought it in 2001.
All right. So from 87 to 2001, you were working for them, and they obviously didn't have any exit strategy. Their strategy was to sell it, and they said, hey, we got this employee. He's top notch. Let's sell it to him. Is that how it went down?
Yeah, pretty much.
How did you structure that buyout? Or were you paying them, or did you just do a lump sum and say, here you go, and they left? Or were you doing some kind of recurring payment to them?
It was a lump sum all at one time.
Okay. So instead of doing the lump sum with your kids, you could do a recurring payment, and they could just pay you in your retirement years. See, as a financial planner, where I'm going with this is you need to look at this as your retirement plan, and you need an income stream that the kids are going to pay you in your retirement years.
If they can keep the door open long enough, we'll see about it. So,
Van's happy Thanksgiving plan.
Yeah, I'm trying. Pat. I'm trying to look out for your long-term financial plan here.
Well, it's interesting because the industry is, we touched on it, in the first conversation. But Pat, you buying in 2001, you had the 9/11, ordeal. And some of the .com bubble bursting. Yeah. You had, the 2007, 2008, and then now here the coronavirus. But this industry is pretty, stable. Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, most of this stuff, the heat and air industry, everybody still wants cool air in their house, and so it doesn't affect the heating and air industry as much as it does a lot of your other industries. But because people still call us wanting to get their air conditioning.
With 20 employees, if you lose an employee, how hard is it for you to find another employer? There are a lot of people out there that you can either train yourself or already have training, or is the industry as a whole lacking enough good qualified heating and air guys?
It's lacking. The whole industry wide is lacking. When I talk to other owners and stuff like that, I'll have the same conversation trying to figure out how to get a good employee.
It seems to me with the massive amounts of student loan debt that's going on, kids today need to rethink whether or not doing the traditional 4-year college, getting a degree is really worthwhile when demand for people like you, welders, plumbers, those type of jobs seems like it's a high demand. And why spend $75,000-$100,000 on a college education when you can come out of high school probably, right? What do you need? Just some some certification classes? How long does it take to get to the point where you could be in your business?
Takes about anywhere from a year to 2 years of technical school.
Okay. But I don't need a 4-year degree, right? I can just go to a trade school.
You can go to a trade school, and that's what we look for, is people that's been in trade schools.
Is that when you're looking for a new employee? Do you go and say, hey, who do you have graduating?
Yes, we go to a lot of your technical schools and try to get employees there and bring them in fresh.
Right. So the only technical school I even remotely know about is the one up there in Gwinnett County, Gwinnett Tech. Is there what schools are you going to when you're looking for them? Is there ones that are in Georgia that you say, hey, this is the best one, that's who I'm going to?
We go to Gwinnett some, and there's a Lanier Tech that we go to some, in Athens Tech.
Okay, so to our listeners who are younger, who are thinking about what to do now in this COVID world, go to Lanier Tech or Net Tech and get yourself a good, honest trade profession, and then Pat's going to hire you as soon as you graduate.
Yeah,
there you go. Sounds good.
Sounds good.
I mean, there's a lot of demand, and yeah, I think kids today, everything seems to be instant gratification, and you can get things really quick. But when it comes to, and Van, you know this, and for me being in banking, building wealth it's not an elevator, it's more of an escalator, and it's over time that you really build it. And I think for any profession, if you just find something you're passionate about, something that you can wake up each day and you can go to and dedicate your time and energy towards, you're going to find success. And what I love about this podcast, Van, is we find these entrepreneurs, we find these small business owners who are living that American style dream of owning their own, running their own business, calling their own shots. And like Pat and Tracy, now they're their own landlords, which you can tell me a year from now if you enjoy that better. Y'all are still new to it, but it's there's a lot of value, Van, in what you just presented. Instead of just going that try to the rack up a bunch of debt route.
Yeah. Well, we're up against our break. Before we get our commercial break in and before we play our fun Can You Ace It game, I have one more question, Pat. What kind of capital outlay do you have to have for this type of business? Let's say I'm a young 20-something. I just went to trade school. Is it something that I could start my own business, or I'm really going to have to come work for someone like you who's been around for a while? Do I need to do it the Pat way, where I work for someone for a number of years before I become the actual owner, or can I actually go out and start my own heating and air business? How much capital would I need to do that?
It's not really that much capital that you need to get started in it, but the experience to knowing how to fix air conditioning units and how to operate an air conditioning company, I would strongly recommend working for somebody.
So there's a difference between what I learned at the trade school and that real world, hey, I just opened up this panel and this is what I see, because this is a 15-year-old unit that we didn't discuss in trade school.
Yeah, there's a lot of on hands that you're going to learn out in the field that the school doesn't teach you. Gotcha. They give you a good idea of how to work on the unit, but
gotcha.
You're going to run across a lot of new things out in the real world.
Well, we got to take a short commercial break. We'll be right back with Can You Ace It?
If you recently got divorced, you may be wondering how to pick up all of the financial pieces. Is it time to make a new budget, new goals, and get a new game plan with your investments? What about the best way to save money on your taxes? Take control of your money future. Go to oxygenfinancial.net to schedule a complimentary meeting today. Go to oxygenfinancial.net to get started right now.
Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Kestra Advisory Services, an affiliate of Kestra Investment Services. Oxygen is not affiliated with Kestra.
All right, welcome back to Between Two Trains. We come to you on the 1st and the 15th of every month with great small business entrepreneurs. We're talking with Pat and Tracy from FulBro Heating and Air, and we're going to play our fun Can You Ace It game brought to you by the Chambly Ace Hardware. What a great small business entrepreneur. Brian and Stacy there at Ace Hardware. When you need some kind of home project needs, just go right over there. You know, Eric, I'll tell you a quick story before we play Can You Ace It. Someone posted recently about how they had a problem getting into the trunk of their car, and they went to the Ace Hardware, and the employee came out to try to help them, and when they couldn't help them, they got Brian to come out, and Brian helped them get into the trunk of their car. That's the kind of business owner Brian is at the Chambly Ace Hardware. I just had to tell that story. Anyways.
Well, that's service with a smile.
That's right. So let's play Can You Ace It? And let's go with our first question. What is it?
All right. Question number 1. According to the Energy Information Administration, heating and cooling makes up what percentage of all energy consumption in American homes? Either A, 25%, B, 48%, or C, 77%.
B.
Tracy's got it. Tracy's got B. I saw her do it. All right, B it is. 48%. So that's interesting. 48% of all our energy is just coming from heating and cooling our houses.
And, it strikes me, because you think about TV, you think about computers, phones, all these things that are plugged up, to the electrical grid.
Well, I tell you, we're doing this via Zoom because we're still in this COVID world. And, I'm doing this from my home office. I've got internet that's drawing power. I've got my laptop. My son is in the other room. He's got lights on. He's got, his Xbox going. My wife is downstairs watching Netflix. So, yeah, you're right. All that energy consumption, but still at the end of the day, setting that thermostat and having that AC kick on is driving half of my energy bill.
Half of it.
Half of it.
Pat and Tracy.
I need to look into solar, man. We should install solar on our houses. Can we do that?
That's pretty radical right there.
Yeah.
All right. So we're 1 for 1.
Now, I do have a question, Pat and Tracy. Last year, I went on a vacation. My wife's cousin had a cousin get married in Hawaii. So we go out to Hawaii, and this is in August, right? It was very hot in August, 90 plus every day that we were gone. In an effort to be a cheapwad and save, bucks, I decide, well, let me just turn the thermostat off. And I just remember when we got home, the AC had to run for nearly like 10 hours straight just to kind of get back to a normal. So am I saving money? I mean, what would you recommend if somebody's going on vacation? Do you just keep it on, or?
I recommend keeping it on and just turn the temperature up. I mean, if you turn it up to 80 degrees, at least it's keeping the house at some kind of temperature and not getting too far out of hand.
What's your advice about turning that little switch from just having the AC come on to having the fan run? Should the fan run all the time, or does that really not help at all?
I mean, if you got air purification systems in your house, and running the fan all the time is good, because then your air purification system sees more air and helps clean the air up more. If you have rooms that are hot or cold and won't keep even temperatures in your house, sometimes running the fans will help the temperature in your house stay more constant. But
gotcha.
Van, I feel like you asked that question to settle a household personal debate.
No, I'm not. My wife listens to the podcast, so I won't comment on any of that.
Smart man, abstain. All right, well, let's slide into question number 2. Who is credited for inventing air conditioning? Either A, Gottlieb Daimler, B, Alexander Graham Bell, or C, Willis Carrier?
Willis Carrier. Since I'm a Carrier factory authorized.
Ding, ding, ding.
So Carrier is one of the largest manufacturers of air conditioning units, correct?
Yes.
That's correct. And it was in 1902.
Willis Carrier came up with the air conditioning in 1902.
And he was trying to solve an issue of reducing humidity because he was working for a company that published, magazines, and they had an issue with humidity wrinkling some of the print.
I tell you, it's amazing all the stuff that happened right there in the early 1900s, the turn of the century. What was going on? You got the AC unit that you just mentioned. Obviously, the automobile came along, air flight came along, all that in that early 1900s.
Yeah, I mean, communication, Alexander Graham Bell, the telegraph and, the modern phone. All that was really coalescing around the same time. And then from an industrial perspective, you had a huge revolution and a lot of technology being wielded. There was a lot of wealth, that was created. A lot of this was American invention. And a lot of historians kind of point to that time period as very critical in, what we know the country to be today and the GDP and whatnot that we have. So you're right, Van. Very astute.
All right, we got 2 for 2. Can Pat and Tracy go for a full sweep here?
Pat and Tracy are heating up. Let's see if they can strike fire here with this last question. What percentage of households nationwide are equipped with air conditioning? Either A, 13%, B, 49%, or C, 87%.
C.
Gotta be C, because women don't like to be hot.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
You are on fire.
87% of households in America have air conditioning, is what you're saying.
Yep. And I'd be willing to bet there's a higher percentage of Georgia households that have AC.
Yeah. Didn't we have one of our previous podcasts, didn't we talk about how the Fox Theater had AC before even the White House? You remember that? That was a Can You? We need to go back. All right. So here's the deal. To those listeners listening, you shoot me an email if you can tell me what episode podcast we talked about the Fox Theater having AC before the White House had AC. I remember that was a question. I'm going to give a special gift to the first listener that can email me, send it to vanpappas@gmail.com and tell me what episode. We'll see how many episode listens we get from people going back trying to figure out what episode it was. I'm going to look at the analytics, Eric, and it's going to be from like minute.
You're going to see a spike.
Yeah, but just from minute like 20 to 26 when we do the Can You Ace It game.
You're going to see a surge for the back half of the podcast.
The back half of the podcast. We're going to have all these downloads. All right, well, 3 for 3. Congratulations. You won the Can You Ace It game, and we're pretty much at the end of our episode. So thank you, Pat and Tracy, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. But I want to give you an opportunity to tell our listeners when that AC breaks or when they need service or when they just want to have regular maintenance, how should they reach you? What's your phone number?
You can give us a call at 770-457-1211, or you can look us up online at FulBro.com.
Nice. All right, Eric, I appreciate you doing another Between Two Trains. What do we have from the banking world? Any parting words?
The PPP,
it's over, right? PPP is over?
PPP loan program expired June 30th. And so now much of the focus and attention is steered towards the forgiveness portion. Congress in June had relaxed some of the guidelines. So it's expected and hoped that the back half of this will be a little more enjoyable than the front end was. And, in terms of what we're seeing, it's, I shared with you earlier about no prediction that I've made so far has aged very well. It's very difficult to predict how things are going to look 30 days from now, because in the last 90 days, things have changed dramatically, at those 30-day intervals. So, we take it day by day, and we're cautious, but trying to do what we can to get the American economy and the American engine running again.
Pat, you didn't have to lay off any employees during all this?
No.
That's good that you didn't have to lay off any employees. I'm assuming that means you didn't have to go after any of that PPP money?
I did go after it because of the slowdown in work, but I didn't have to because of laying anybody off. We kept everybody. Okay,
well, that's good, because we have I've run across a lot of business owners that were not able to get any of that, and so I am curious to see what the government does if they do another round to try to help all the business owners that weren't able to take advantage of that. Anyways, thanks again, Pat and Tracy, for coming on the show, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with another great episode of Between Two Trains. Thanks a lot.